Thanks for coming, everyone. This is really nice to see so many faces. I'm not going to solve all your problems today. I wish I could. I'm just going to share what Seattle is doing to meet our permit requirements related to PCBs. And you can take it as food for thought. You can do the same thing, or you could do something else, and that's okay. So first, I just want to give a quick background into Seattle and stormwater and our PCB experiences, and then go into the strategies to control PCB sources in municipal stormwater. I know that many of you just care about Jasper the dog, and so I might speed through some of my washdown slides and just go over to talk about our project related to permittee-owned buildings or city-owned buildings. All right, just quickly a little bit about Seattle. So I work for Seattle Public Utilities. We are the folks who provide drinking water to the region, solid waste, drainage and wastewater. And we are a department of the city, and the city is the permittee. So we're the phase 1 municipal permittee. Many years ago, the mayor decided that SPU, because we're experts in drainage systems, that we would coordinate all of the departments and all of the NPDES requirements across departments, provide oversight, expertise, and do all the NPDES reporting. So that's where I live. And then I work with all the departments. These 6 here are just the key ones that have a real nexus with stormwater, but the city is the permittee. So we all do it. Looking at Colleen. All right, and then just like PCBs is the old chemical on the block, Seattle is the old permittee on the block. So we've been a phase 1 permittee since the get-go, and yeah, we're on version 5, I guess, technically 7, I think, but right. We do have a lot of challenges in Seattle. 750,000 people, 37 inches of rain. I got that question last night at trivia. And so we have a lot of cars moving through the city, a lot of hard surfaces, really high impervious surface, and a lot of chemicals moving through the city, trucks. So we have flooding issues as well. We have a capacity constrained system in some areas of the city. We have 1,900 businesses in our source control business inventory to inspect. We have over 24,000 catch basins, and over 20,000 of those are owned by SPU. And we have a Superfund site, the Lower Duwamish Waterway. We have another Superfund site, Harbor Island, but the Lower Duwamish Waterway area is primarily contaminated with PCBs. And so we have a special part of the permit. We have Appendix 13 just for us right now that requires us to do some special source control, looking for sources of pollution to the Duwamish Waterway. But with that, we also have a lot of opportunities with those challenges. We have our own stormwater manual. So we tend to go above and beyond what Ecology requires because we have unique challenges. We've had a street sweeping for water quality program for a couple of decades now, so we know what we're doing there. We have an excellent spill response team. There's Angela. And we have a lot of stormwater treatment facilities. Means it's a lot to maintain, but we have a lot of stuff out there that's trying to prevent pollution. We're developing our Shape Our Water 50-year plan for drainage and wastewater, looking into the future. And then we've been able to use and develop some innovative methods like working with the PCB Dog. All right, I stole this. I stole this from Emma because I realized that there was a break in between these 2 presentations and I might get new people. But so this slide is from Emma Dexter from Seattle 2030, talks about what PCBs are. These are polychlorinated biphenyls. They're bioaccumulative, they're toxic, they build up in the food chain. And we use those as smart humans to add durability and flexibility to building materials. We use them in transformers and capacitors for heating insulation in electronics. So it was like the good thing to use to improve a building material or an oil's use or benefits. They were mostly used in building materials like caulk and paint between 1950 and 1980, though they were created in 1929, and Monsanto bought that company in 35. So they were used before 1950, but just more commonly used in building materials from 1950. All right. So because we have a PCB problem in Seattle, we've done a lot of work on identifying sources of PCBs and doing a bunch of source tracing. So we have, I think Angela Peterson from Kirkland is in here potentially. We have Angela when she was at SPU, pulling some sediment traps. So we've installed little traps inside pipes that collect the sediment that would be going through the pipe and otherwise entering the waterway. And so we're using that to collect samples to analyze for PCBs and figure out where the higher PCBs are coming from. We have found elevated PCBs in storm solid samples adjacent to buildings, especially during construction and maintenance activities. You can't really see the picture on the right there, but that's a piece of caulk that was just, because of pressure washing, it came off the building and around UW. We worked with UW Conservation Canines to develop a method for dogs to detect PCBs by their sense of smell. And this was kind of a pilot study to begin with, and then a confirmation study with sampling. This was funded by Ecology. Thank you, Ecology. And now we actually use the dog to assist us in our screening. If we have an area, this is 17th Ave Basin in the Duwamish, in the South Park area. We know that there's a source of PCBs in the area. We'll use the dog to walk around and try to screen out, identify higher areas where we may want to sample, because sampling and analysis is expensive. All right, so many of you are permittees, municipal stormwater permittees. And as you know, for the 2024 permit, we have new requirements related to PCBs and PCB source control. So the first one is about education and outreach. I'm going to talk briefly about what Seattle plans on doing, or we're currently doing, to meet that permit requirement. I'll talk about washdown. I'll minimize how much I have for that. I have a lot, but I'll squeeze it a little bit, and we can talk later if you have questions. And then we'll talk about something that is really important to me, and that's the permittee-owned buildings and taking responsibility for our own system and our own facilities. All right, so apologies to those who attended the previous presentation. This is the same information, but as permittees, whether you're Eastern, Western, or Phase 1, we're required to reach out to property owners and managers, developers, engineers, contractors, and land use planners, so people who are working on and around buildings, and communicate and educate them about source control BMPs for building materials, so that we're reducing PCBs from entering stormwater. So I will say that this is something that the city plans to build on over time. I don't think that we'll be getting in there and doing everything we're going to do right now. We will be initially starting to share the existing resources. And so Emma Dexter from Seattle 2030 talked about a bunch of resources that they've developed, a toolkit, and the ability to put on your own workshop and share information. So we're going to be using what's out there already: Ecology's webpage, Ecology's focus sheets, the manual BMPs, and Seattle 2030's toolkit to meet that permit requirement from the get-go. So we'll be including all that information on our city's webpage. It's kind of the low-hanging fruit, I think, for that one. So we'll be linking to some of those Ecology documents. Something else we're doing is we have an existing pressure washing fact sheet that we send out or we provide to businesses during inspections. And so we already have a little bit of text in there about PCB buildings, but we'll be amping that up a little bit to make it really clear about wash down, collecting it, and the BMPs associated with those. So we'll update that sheet and share it around. And then something else that we're doing is we're in the process of creating source control mobile business outreach to meet our mobile business outreach permit requirements. And so this is King County, and this is from the SAM study right here, one of the brochures that was developed from that project, and we'll be kind of adapting that to us. We'll probably create 5 different brochures for different types of mobile businesses, and one of those will be for building maintenance and washing, companies that do washing. So those are some of the tools we'll be using for education and outreach, and like I said, we'll be building it over time. And then I guess one final thing is that we're in the process of updating our stormwater manual at Seattle. We have our own manual, and I was in charge of updating the source control BMPs along with a great team. So we did include a note in there with BMP 6 about training and oversight, that facility maintenance staff need to be made aware of PCBs and operational BMPs. So let's kind of throw it into the BMPs wherever we can. All right, so building washdown. The permit says that if you have a commercial, industrial, or multi-story residential building built between 1950 and 1980, you need to assess that for PCBs on the exterior following Ecology's how-to guidance before washing buildings where water goes to the MS4. So what we're doing with that, I mentioned our manual update process. So we updated, it's in draft right now to be submitted to Ecology by July 1st and go out for public comment. But we've updated our cleaning and washing BMP in a way that essentially Seattle is going to be presuming that PCBs are present in these types of buildings unless sampling indicates otherwise. And you'll note that in the purple text here, I included institutional. And so those are lots, government buildings, hospitals, places like that, large buildings, which a lot of them in our area were built in that time period. And so that was, I think, maybe an oversight that I might have had at Ecology where I didn't include that text in the permit, but we'll certainly be including institutional because they have a higher chance of having PCBs. All right, so how this came up in the last talk, how are we going to gather information about suspected PCB buildings so that we can meet those washdown requirements? I'll talk about that briefly, how we're going to be recording and storing that information, and then how we're going to use it to meet our IDDE requirements. All right, so we'll go through city investigations, self-reporting component, and then county tax records, which I brought up at the last during the question and answers section of the last talk. All right, city investigations. So we already actually have a list of 40 buildings from previous investigations that we know contain or presume to contain PCBs. So when we do other source tracing work around the Duwamish, we'll be adding that to our list. We also sometimes receive information from other departments at the city about PCB containing buildings, or if we're referred sites from 8 other agencies, we'll incorporate that into our data set as well. If there are complaints or reports of washdown on buildings that come in to our operations response center, then we can investigate those as well to see, go out there and see if the building is likely to contain PCBs. We also included in BMP 17 of our manual, in the draft form right now, we're requiring that confirmed or suspected PCB containing materials be reported to SPU, our Operations Response Center. Those pages then go to our spill responders and our source control staff, and we'll add that to our list. And then finally, another place where we can gather information about this is through county tax records. So we've already gone through the process of querying the King County data for buildings built in our 30-year time period and built or renovated, that are in the MS4, that are not vacant lots, and that are built from concrete or masonry structures, or have concrete or masonry structures. And that came up with about 1,600 parcels meeting those criteria. So that's our base list that we will work from. And I will say that it is a good start, but it is imperfect because it really depends on how the building information is kept in the system. The King County records, those criteria are really based on the largest building on the parcel. And so you might have multiple buildings on a parcel. It's only the information from the largest one that is listed, like concrete or masonry and the age and that sort of thing. So it's not perfect, but it's better than nothing. So what we'll be doing with the county tax records is cross-referencing this list of 1,600 with our source control business inventory, see where they match up, and then we're going to put a flag in our system, in our database, to say potential PCB building. So we will be kind of creating that inventory from all that information. We'll be putting it into our existing source control and IDDE database. We use Resco and Dynamics. Okay, so what are we going to do with that information to meet our building washdown requirements? All of that is going to inform our business inspections. So our inspectors will be trained to visually identify the presence of PCBs or PCB sources on buildings. We'll be making sure that we ask building owners or maybe tenants at times, I guess, about cleaning practices and any plans for demolition and renovation, so that they know, like, you're not going to be able to discharge that to the MS4. And then we'll communicate about PCB-specific information with those managers during business inspections and through the other education and outreach. We'll follow up on any spill reports, IDDE, illicit discharge investigations. We'll do that targeted outreach. I will say that if we find a building that we think contains PCBs and we want to see if it's impacting our MS4, we could take samples. We've done this in the past. We would take samples of the storm solids in the catch basins to confirm that link. And that could lead, you can't see it on the screen, that could lead to referrals to EPA. That's a path we might take. All right, so this is something that's really important to me and the city as well, and SPU. It's our responsibility to make sure that we are not contributing PCBs to our drainage system and downstream waterways. And so this one is, how are we going for time? We've got 2 minutes. 2.5. 2.5. Okay, so all right. We need to make sure that we're not contributing to our drainage system, right? PCBs to our drainage system with washing or cleaning or any maintenance or demolition. We need to implement source control BMPs to prevent that. So it is the right thing to do. And it's also managing our risk to take this one really seriously. In order to do this, we need to know which city buildings contain PCBs. So how do we do that? Well, this is Jasper, and he smells PCBs. He's been trained to smell PCBs at low levels, at about 1 part per million. So we currently have a project that's funded by Ecology, thank you, Ecology, where we're screening city-owned buildings for potential presence of PCBs using Jasper. This helps us not have to go out and collect a bunch of really expensive samples. And so SPU, I'm leading this project, but I'm working with other city departments because a lot of city departments own buildings in the city built in that time period. Field Lab is now the company that Julianne from UW, she started her own company, Field Lab, and Jasper is the dog, and it's been an amazing program so far. For the project, we're not sampling. This is about presence or absence to give us an idea of what we might need to go back to. We have 100 buildings in the inventory of city buildings that meet our criteria across 100 parcels. And the output of the project really is just try to be simple, a table and then a bunch of maps and really calling out kind of what kind of material Jasper identified and where on the building. And this is Jasper in action. He sits when he smells PCBs. That's what he is trained to do. And this is kind of an example of the output that we'll be giving to our departments who own the buildings to give them a sense of where the PCBs might be. And this project is really designed to help inform our follow-up actions. They could be, PCB-specific source control BMPs. It could be updating our maintenance SOPs. Maybe we'll do sampling, maybe to confirm high levels of PCBs, and maybe eventually we'll remove some. And really, it's just giving the departments a better set of information to make facility-specific decisions for them and to plan out projects, to plan renos, to plan demos as well. Real quick, I'll just take your time because everyone likes pictures. This is Jasper in action as part of this program project. So we do some field testing, bench testing before we go out, and Julianne puts PCB containing material in one of the containers and he has to find which one it is. She moves it around, finds it again, just to kind of get him ready to go. And then the other pictures, really, I just wanted to show that this has been such a great experience working with other departments, and it's helped get them on board with this. So we have all the people that I work with at the different departments who manage MPDS requirements, kind of a show and tell for them to say, hey, this isn't really that scary. Like, we're doing the best we can. We're not sampling, working with city-like staff. And this is one of our field staff who wanted to understand the process. So everybody loves dogs. Everybody loves Jasper, fire stations especially. And so it's really been like it's relationship building experience. Real quick, someone asked about demolition permits. Yes, our intent is to include a PCB assessment in our city's demolition permit application so that we're getting that information from them, and so that they know when they're demolishing buildings, they've got to follow the BMPs. And then my plan, which hasn't been approved internally yet, but is that we create some sort of visual catalog or library with data and photos to give you all a better sense of what this looks like in the field and what you might need to be more concerned about, and maybe in the future take samples. So we haven't done that analysis, but I can tell you how much it is. So if you're looking at
Jess analysis count.
The Jess analysis, okay. If you're looking at like EPA method 8082 for PCBs, that's like $300-ish a sample. And Julianne charges about $240 an hour for in the field, and like $140 an hour for prep and documentation, writing it up. And so, but this could be a pretty quick process, depending on the size of the building. Like some of the buildings we've done in little pump station buildings, like 10 minutes. Larger buildings, like bigger facilities, multiple buildings on a parcel, like our operations control center, that took us a couple of hours. Yeah.
But then comparing it, like in the last presentation, you guys talked about taking 87 samples that were near commons or something like that. So it still was a cost savings to utilize Jasper.
I think so. I think this is a great tool where it can be quick. And you just get a sense of what you have, and you might not see anything. There are definitely buildings that he didn't show any interest. And so that's great. That can go at the bottom of our stack. And then there are a few where he did, and I might, in the future, take a few samples there. So it's a really, I think it's just a good screening tool, and it can be pretty cost effective. You should probably get in touch with your wastewater system. You could get an a discharge authorization, depending on what's in the wash water. I know King County has PCB levels in their authorization that, there are thresholds that you would need to meet, but yeah, you can ask to do that. We are not doing that as part of this project, but that's definitely been brought up. So for those who aren't aware, so Ariclaws is like a mixture of different PCB congeners. The 209 congen is like the individual, and then Monsanto put them together to create a mixture. And as a painting company, you would buy the Ariclaw mixture and mix that into your paint. And so there are certain, like there are two main Ariclaws that were used in paint and caulk actually. And so I think it's 1254 and 1260 something. So you can analyze for those in the stormwater potentially, or the storm solids. And then if you come up with those two Ariclaws, then you could maybe look more at the building materials upstream. You could use that information. It's not a part of this particular project. There's so much to learn. Sorry, there's a field for that in the tax assessor record. You have to look at your county system, but there should be a field for that. Yeah, I think so. That's kind of a policy question that I'd need to discuss with my my colleague, but we're focused on our drainage system, and so if it's going to impact our drainage system, we'll take actions. But encapsulate, yeah, I don't foresee us suggesting encapsulation. We'd rather get rid of that source material because we don't want to see that leaching into our system over time. Even if it was encapsulated, maybe we don't know enough about the encapsulation, in my opinion, to say that it's going to stay there. So I think I would say we would probably just direct people to EPA. So for this, we are just focusing on the MS4 area. Yeah, so about a third of the city of Seattle within the city limits is combined, where stormwater goes into our sanitary wastewater pipes. So we're not doing this project in those areas. We don't own the schools. That's their, yeah. So I would love to actually, because I've seen some of the buildings. And I would think, yeah, they're in that time period and that kind of structure in some of them. So I would really love to do that. They are a secondary permittee under our phase 1 permit. And so that's something that I would really love to chat with them about in the future going forward. So that's I don't think anyone has actually looked into that, to be honest. Great question, Harper.
Great. So July 1st, the city's going to be releasing their codes for review, their stormwater codes. And I know, of course, Seattle's going to be paying attention to that. And we probably need to look at our own buildings too.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you about that. Great. Thanks so much. Thanks, Jeff.